What's up, everybody? Tom Pelissero here with Judd Zulgad after the Vikings, Judd, keep their season alive, beat the Bears 21-14. Ye of little faith. When are you going to learn to trust my pulse on this team?
Sorry, Tom, but you know what? This Vikings team frustrates me to no end. I couldn't pick them. But then again, 3 weeks ago against Detroit, I didn't pick them then.
Right.
This is, I think what we're learning, or what we've learned about this team is it's a very different team when they play in the Metrodome than when they go on the road. And can they transfer that now for the next 2 weeks? That's going to be the big question, right?
Yep.
Can you go to St. Louis, can you go to Houston, and sort of capture the energy, whatever type of energy they have when they're playing here in the Dome, where, by the way, it's about 100 degrees right now.
Yeah, we finally found the air conditioning up here in,
in
the coach's booth. One of the reasons that I picked the Vikings to win this game was, from people I talked to around the team, they were so confident that they had the correct game plan had it been executed against Chicago and against Green Bay. If they hadn't given away the football, that they would come back at home in a different environment and beat these teams. And what you saw out there today was Adrian Peterson bust loose for a 51-yard run right off the bat. They were able to run the football. They did exactly what I've been saying for weeks now is the only way that they can win, which is you've got to get a lead and then cling to it for dear life. That's what they did. They also generated a couple of turnovers today, which is a huge difference in this football game because Chicago was able to move the football. They rolled up, 400-odd yards, 438 net yards.
They moved the ball, fine. But
the Vikings were able to come up with 2 picks. One of them goes for 6. The other one goes to the 5-yard line. So basically another defensive score. And the other drive was driven by Adrian Peterson. They're still not throwing the football. But the bottom line, who cares? If you're them, just get dumb. Just enjoy this.
Well, and here's the thing. Brian Robinson talked in the postgame about this. His contention is exactly what you said, which is when we go on the road, we have to execute the game plan. We didn't execute the game plan like you said, Chicago and Green Bay. We executed it today. Now, my question is, okay, that's really, really simple to say, but there's intangibles. There's other things at work here that make this team a far better team at home than on the road. But to go back to the offense, how, I don't know if dysfunctional is the right word, but how weird is an offense where you literally know Adrian Peterson is going to run the ball all day long, teams can't stop him, but you know, also know on the flip side that Christian Ponder's going to make a couple decent passes here and there, but for the most part, at best, Christian's going to manage the game, and you hope he's going to be a non-factor, because if Christian Ponder's a factor, right now, as we sit here, it's usually a bad thing, not a good thing.
He does throw one interception, underthrows Jarius Wright, a ball that everyone's made a big deal of. He throws it off his back foot. It's not so much that as he has to back up before throwing it, and then not only can't step into the throw, but it's late. The ball is late coming out. He's not going to get 50 yards under the football to Jarius Wright from a flat-footed position, but in essence, the Vikings can look at that and say that's basically a punt. At least it was it was an interception to an area of the field where it was not going to damage you. And when I say who cares, they should just enjoy it about not having a passing game, I don't mean that in the broader scope. But if you're the Vikings, you know what your weaknesses are. Players are not stupid. They can look at this, and they know exactly what their issues are right now. They're built to win the type of football game that they won today. The defense made enough plays to help them out. They didn't allow the Bears to run the football as consistently as they did, I think, in the first meeting, even though I think the Bears only averaged 2.9 yards per carry in that game, but they were able to grind it out. Why? Because they had the lead. In this game, you got them in some 3rd and 7s. They continue to try to pack it in and go max protect, but some deeper drops, some deeper routes, trying to make up the difference. The Vikings were at least able to create a little bit more movement back there in the pocket for Jake Cutler.
2 things struck me about what the Vikings defense did. One, they frustrated Cutler. And when you frustrate Cutler, eventually Cutler, I don't want to say he gives up, but you can tell
make mistakes.
But you can tell he gets exasperated at times. And that happened today. The other thing they did is Brandon Marshall had a huge game, but there were some key plays where they came in late, the defensive back did, and they knocked the ball away from Brandon Marshall. There were some absolutely key plays.
A.J. Jefferson on that 3rd down. And Jefferson's had a rough go here, but he made one play, knocking the ball loose from, I think it was right behind Brandon Marshall on a little crossing route there. And that's what you need. You need guys who are going to step up and make some plays. Bottom line, the Vikings cornerbacks against Brandon Marshall are at a disadvantage. Your best press guy is A.J. Jefferson. He ends up with a concussion, but he hasn't been making plays in the football. He makes a couple today. Josh Robinson gives up 2 touchdowns in this game, but also gets an interception, takes advantage. Jamarcus Sanford could have made it 3 picks. He had a ball hit him in the chest, but when Robinson and Harrison Smith get the ball served to them, they made a play, and they changed the field position after catching it.
Poor Jamarca. All right, so with Christian Ponder...
He had just made a great play, underrated, keeping that ball out of the end zone to back up that drive.
Jamarca Sanford has played really well at times, but my point is Jamarca Sanford catches the football as well as you or I would. Christian Ponder...
Those 2 that hit him in the chest last year against Arizona, remember?
Yeah, I do remember. I mean, it's unbelievable. All right, so let's go back to Ponder. People are still all over Ponder. The fans today, because the Vikings won, because the Vikings got off to a quick start, I didn't think it was too bad. But
he still got booed like 5 times.
And there were times he was getting booed. All right. But you know what? In his defense, he throws a nice ball to Devin Aromashdu on that deep pass, and Aromashdu doesn't jump, doesn't go up and get it. That changes the texture of this game. That changes how you and I and everybody else thinks of Christian Ponder if that ball is caught. But where do we stand with him right now? Because this is an interesting, no matter what the Vikings do for the rest of the season, the key guy to me is still Ponder. Where do you stand with Ponder if you're Rick Spielman on making an assessment of him? It's still, even after today, an incredibly difficult thing to do. And I know fans just want the answer of play Joe Webb or go get another quarterback. And I appreciate where you're coming from, but it's not that simple. It's not that simple.
Well, in the long term, and certainly after the season, they're going to have meetings. They're going to address the quarterback position. I can't say for certain exactly how they're going to construct it, but I would have a feeling that they might want to bring in a veteran at minimum to be able to compete with Christian Ponder, to help Christian Ponder and all those sorts of things. Basically what they expected Sage Rosenfels to be, except still able to play. That would also be helpful, so it's worth paying them the money to be on the roster. I don't think that the situation with Ponder is a whole lot different now than it was coming into this game. Because even though they win this football game, I still think you're 7-6. You're in the playoff picture. If Ponder's struggling, if he turns over the football, you're in position to do something here. I don't think that you can hesitate if you're into the third and the fourth quarter of a game to put Joe Webb into the game. Now, again, it would take significant struggles from Christian Ponder in order to make that happen. And was it not abundantly clear to listening to people after the game that they told Christian Ponder, you cannot turn over the ball. Whatever you do, you cannot make those types of turnovers. And they gave him a game plan that I think accentuated his strengths. Even though the Bears did a much better job taking away those slide routes and those releases into the flats that they killed him with on that one drive to Kyle Rudolph down at Soldier Field, they took some of that stuff away. But when you have Christian Ponder dropping back, and I said this to you during the game, 3-step drop when he plants his foot and throws an in-breaking route, a slant, anything like that, he throws a nice ball. Yes. But that's the one throw he can make right now.
And that's the one.
So they kept having him do that.
And that's the one throw Jerome Simpson didn't, or one of 3 throws Jerome Simpson didn't catch at Soldier Field, too.
3rd and 4.
That was it. Now, the other interesting thing is I talked to quarterbacks coach Craig Johnson on Thursday. And Johnson talked about in Green Bay that they felt Ponder was basically got happy feet too much, tried to roll out too much, wasn't really playing quarterback. You made a comment during the game that was interesting today and reflected, I think, how the Vikings felt about it, which was play quarterback. Play the position of quarterback, Christian. And that's where I come back to, for this year, the best thing Christian can do, the best thing he can do is not lose games and manage the game properly. And now that Percy Harvin's gone, everything is on Adrian Peterson's plate. And let's talk about Peterson. I mean, this story, as it develops, how can he not be in the MVP, and to a lesser extent, but he qualifies for it, comeback player of the year mix? I know Peyton Manning's coming off a neck injury that cost him a year, but what Adrian Peterson has done on an ACL, on a reconstructed knee, it's not good. It's phenomenal, and I really think he might be a better player right now than he was before he got hurt.
I didn't even realize till right now, looking at the box score, that he ran 31 times in this game.
Career high.
454 yards. Now,
Career
only
high.
50 of those yards came over the final 3 quarters.
But still.
But he still is he's changing the game. And how many running backs can you say consistently change the game and change how the defense plays? And imagine for a second, and this is not an excuse for Christian Ponder, this is not an excuse for the passing offense, but imagine for a second if the Vikings had a legitimate split end. Or if they had one high-caliber receiver on this team, the difference it could make where you actually had to respect anything on the perimeter.
Let's take Brandon Marshall and a player that's a couple steps down from him. That guy would be putting up huge numbers. That guy would be an incredible asset to this offense. If you had, heck, let's say it, if you had Sidney Rice. Now, Seattle gave him way too much guaranteed money, so I don't blame the Vikings for not re-signing him. But let's say the Vikings had kept Sidney Rice on this team. Sidney Rice doing what Sidney Rice can do with Adrian Peterson. Adrian Peterson, though, today we saw it, he has the wherewithal not only to be breaking off runs left and right, but you see him get mad at himself because he can see holes now. And there was one play where he gained about, 3 yards and slammed the ball on the ground. He felt he should have broken that run. It's weird because last Sunday you almost laughed when he said, I could have done more. But in his mind, he can do more. And what he is doing, he has to be in the MVP discussion. He has to be.
2,000 yards is within reach. Now they head down to St. Louis, a team that came back, beat Buffalo today, still are clinging to faint playoff aspirations of their own, and they're an offense-starved team. Guess what that means for the matchup with the Vikings? I give them a pretty decent shot to go down there and get a win.
They
Not
do.
Not a prediction yet. Give me some time.
I'm not gonna hold you to this.
I'm just saying.
And then you go play Houston.
And Houston,
and let's say Houston's
got to look at the standings, but they might be resting people in that game.
Yeah.
Everything that you want is out there in front of you and more. The Vikings have to go down and continue this thing. Play well in St. Louis. They haven't played well on the road. It'll be interesting. He's Judd.
Wait, last thing though.
Oh, you're going to go over 10 minutes.
Can I get one last thing in?
No.
All right, you know what? Next video. Next video. I'll tease you. Next video, I got something to say.
He's Judd. I'm Tom. Full Vikings coverage at 1500 ESPN.com. We'll see you.